Wonderful. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Nanaya Yabua Show. I am once again privileged to be with Anwar Jamison. Anwar is a professor, a script writer, an actor. Most important, he's a family man. And today's conversation is a follow up conversation on coming to Africa. Welcome to Ghana. But that is the gist of who Anwar is. So I'm going to let him tell us who he is. And if you need more about what he's done previously, you can watch my previous conversations or interview with him in 20 last year, actually, last year. Was it?
Yeah, I'm losing track now. Time goes so fast. I don't.
2022, yes, 2022. Anwar Akwaba,
May
welcome
I
to the Nana Yaya Boy Show.
thank you. May I say I am so happy to be here again and had this conversation to follow up because we had a wonderful time last time.
Oh, we had the gracious grace. You see, my glasses is off. We had a ball. We had a ball, and I hope for those who don't know about this show is primarily about storytelling. If you love stories, if you believe in the power of storytelling to inspire, transform, and unite us as a people, this is the show for you. And every time I see you and I watch what you're doing, and especially with these movies, I'm so excited, Anwar, because you playing a critical role in the narrative of blacks around the world, bringing us together, bridging that gap. And I would love to say my show is similar to that, Bridging the Gap, but you are doing it massively differently. What inspired this?
It is needed. I wanted to fill a void. I always had thoughts of Africa. Growing up here, we don't always get the most positive images of it. So I just was always naturally inquisitive about it, books that I had read, things of that nature. And then when I saw some of the conversations and just the mentality around all things Africa, I just realized I could utilize the power of cinema and storytelling to tell a different story. And I just think it's necessary because there's so many forces trying to divide us. So much now is so frustrating. You look online, the more access we have to things online, it should be getting better, but it's like it's getting worse. It's just so divisive sometimes. You'll be on social media and look at this post and you'll see some, and there are a lot of people trying to combat that. But I just really wanted to fit in and say, hey, here's a story that I can tell that will let people see, hey, if you go to Africa, if you go to Ghana, you may have an experience like this. You're going to meet people who love you. You're going to meet people who you love, who you become family with. You're going to have great experiences. And again, if you put that into a movie, into cinema, people digest it better a lot, and they can take it because we all grew up on movies.
Beautiful. So that being said, let's get back to your beginning story in the sense of your journey into movie making, filmmaking.
Originally, I just knew that I wanted to write. My entire life, I wanted to write more than anything. So originally, I thought it would be novels. I wanted to be a great writer and write these novels that represented the African American experience. And
Mhm.
then coming of age, hip hop became the thing. It became a big part of my life. So then I was doing hip hop. I was rapping. I thought, oh, I want to be the next great rapper. And it was actually a chance experience that kind of led me to want to study film because I was going to shoot a music video and for one of my songs, and the person who was supposed to shoot it didn't show up, and they weren't answering their phone, and they kind of stood me up, and it was embarrassing because I had some people and friends and coworkers there ready to shoot this video, and this guy
Mm-hmm.
didn't show up, and he never showed
Mm-hmm.
up,
Mm-hmm.
and just on a whim, I kind of was like, "Ah, I have to learn how to do my own videos now." And that was really a thought, but it just led me to look around at what film schools were around. I wanted to learn how to do it professionally and not just pick up a camera and do anything. And it really led me to a love of storytelling in that medium and filmmaking. And then music videos were kind of the least of my thoughts after that. I just really wanted to make movies at that point. And the very first movie I did, called Funeral Arrangements, was like my graduate thesis, basically the short version, and we expanded it and did the entire feature film. And from there, I was hooked, and I just wanted to continue to tell stories in that fashion.
Beautiful. You know, every time I speak to you, I pick up something new, the tenacity. The person who was supposed to show up to shoot this movie didn't show up. Then in Coming to Africa, the first one, the main actor stood you up. So you,
Yes. So by chance, on 2 days' notice, I had to jump in and play the role. It was a Saturday. We frantically, what do you mean? Get on the plane. What? Oh, we'll figure that out on this side. It was all these excuses, and I just had to jump in and tell everybody I played the role. I could see by everyone's expressions around me, they didn't really think that was a good idea. I don't know what it was about me that made them think I couldn't act. They didn't believe me. And then after the first day, they said, okay, they relaxed. Like, okay, he actually can act. And it's just funny how things work, because one of the actresses in the new movie Coming to Africa, Welcome to Ghana, actually had a mutual friend who was the girlfriend of the actor who stood me up in the first one. And I never heard from him after that. Never anything. And she had this whole story about being with him at Thanksgiving dinner last year and bringing it up, and his side of the story. And it was just funny. So that was my little closure to the situation. As far as actually hearing, because I always wondered what does
what
he actually
happened?
say about it? Does he
Yeah.
try to act like he thinks he wasn't in the wrong, and he knows what it is? So that was kind of funny that I just found that out when we were doing publicity for this one this past summer.
I think when I listen to you, when I follow the trajectory of your work, your tenacity to, how do we call it, problem solve within the span of a few, and that impact that has carried out on in your life, and that is one thing that I hope that many people pick from you, that the fact that you don't see or you don't get what you think should be the end of a dream. It should actually propel you to be self-sufficient and chase after that dream. So I really wanted to hone in on that.
That's a very important trait of a director. If you're going to direct movies, you almost have to have that trait, or I don't see how you'll get very far, because nothing is ever going to go 100% the way you plan. So if something doesn't, the wardrobe person loses a piece of wardrobe, or this person is going to be later to the set than they thought, or something breaks down, you always thinking on your toes, trying to stay ahead and just adapt. So there are a lot of things that we had to adapt and change that I forget about, and then later on I look back like, oh, I forgot we were supposed to really be shooting here or this, because you just adapt and move on. So that's
Mhm,
a
mhm.
constant when it comes to filmmaking.
I think that there's a saying that says it's not the problem, it's how you look at it.
Right.
So how you go around it. Okay, so coming to Africa. Mm,
Yes.
welcome to Ghana.
Yes.
You did it, irrespective of the challenges. Ah, where's my T-shirt?
Yes, we'll have to work on that. We'll have to get that out to you.
Yes, yes, and I'll come calling. I'll come calling. There are major themes I picked up from this movie, more so much impact than even the first one. Like this one was like, okay, we're really digging deep. You dug deep in family, you dug deep in trust, communication, like having the African dream versus the American dream, respect, community. Usher Fort, the dungeon. How did you end up there?
Oh, the dungeon. Wow, that was so PY out of Boateng, our producer. I always have to give much love and a shout out to my brother. So he went and arranged it. We were looking for, I just said, we need a dungeon scene. So they went to James Fort. But when I got there, I didn't realize. So, like they say in Ghana, often, especially that part of Ghana, it's like it's agreed upon, but it's not like there's a form to go fill out and they say, hey, you can use this. So we still had to speak to the people when we got there. We still had to look out. They still had to make sure our intentions were honorable and we weren't doing anything that would defame or make it look bad. And so when we got there, there was that. There was a guy I can't think of his name right now. I'll go back and look at my video, but I posted him on social media. He just ran down like this beautiful history lesson of the whole thing before we got started and just letting us
Did
know
he
some
have
of the history.
dreadlocks?
He did.
I know him.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, he's what probably right. He's one of the guardians of the area who were making sure
Yes.
everything was on
It's
the up and
either
up.
him and there is a smaller guy chief as well. There's the two of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were
And I
actually
actually had them pray for me right in front of that
oh wow.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, they were bringing like a group of students through and everything like
Mm-hmm.
right while we were shooting, but
Mm-hmm.
it was ambitious. I just knew there was an idea that I had, and I knew I needed that location. It was really to prove a point, and I'm like to shoot this in an actual dungeon in a fort where slaves were previously held
Yeah.
was nailed it. And one of the actors, it was crazy because when we got in there, he was like, you know, later on after being a slave dungeon, later on it was a jail, and one of the actors
Yes.
was actually like, I was in jail here before. He was like, you know, I was in here, and it brought back that memory for him. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So there was a lot going on in there, and it's funny because we got the shots we needed. We felt like we were good on time. The sun was out. It was like, okay, let's finish. We're starting to lose a little light. We have to finish up. Okay, we got the shots. Let's go. And it was like as soon as we said let's go, it's like the sun went down so fast, or it goes down so fast over there. By the time we were grabbing equipment to get out, it was like people trying to use
Pitch
our
dark.
cell phones, but it had got pitch dark, and we were all trying to follow each other out. And it was like completely dark. I'm like, how did the sun go down that fast? But it was one of those days. That was one of our longer days, and we were proud when we got that one finished. We said it's smooth sailing from here. We everything else will be easy.
It was quite funny with you coming in with Lilliput. I don't know his name, but I call him Lilliput. Don't tell him I call him Lilliput.
Yes, Sibor. That's my the lion. That's
Osebo.
he's a great guy. Yes, Sibor.
Oh, this one doesn't look like Osebo.
And he is hilarious. You know, he's actually mostly a member of the crew. He's our script supervisor. He does our continuity on the crew. And I actually had that part for someone else. Like it's a small part, and it was someone who was in the first one, and he couldn't be there. He was traveling at the time; he was out of the country, so he was kind of crushed. And my assistant director Basira was like, "Maybe we could put." I said, "Well, we could have him do it," and I just pictured him. I said, "Oh God, that's gonna be so funny." I said, "That's perfect. That's perfect."
It,
So
it
he was
was it was perfect. It was perfect.
Yes, he
Yes.
was
It,
excited, and he's an actor and a director in his own right. Really
mm,
cool guy, really talented guy.
yeah. I love that scene. It just cracked me up. The comedic effect was beautiful. So let's get to parts of these themes that I had mentioned. So we've talked about the dungeon scene, and then your relationship, because your relationship also brought about a lot of issues within couples or miscommunication with between couples, either both Ghanaians or even diasporan and Ghanaians. So that is what really got my attention. Can
Yeah,
you elaborate a little bit more on that?
yeah. So I wanted to drive home a point that on one hand, relationships are universal
Mm,
between a man and a woman. You know, you can have the same issues whether you're both from America, Ghana, Canada, the UK, wherever, right? Certain
mhm,
things are just going to be there. There has to be trust. There has to be respect. In a new relationship, there's that honeymoon period where everything
mhm,
is all roses, and then after that, it kind of sets in. You get to know each other a little more. Maybe you're like, he's doing this. I don't know what that means, and she's doing this. So I wanted to kind of capture that part of relationships, just going from that brand new honeymoon phase of having a new relationship compared to when you get to a little bit more serious and you're looking forward to building a future. But
mhm,
also touch on culture clash and how certain things
mhm,
can be perceived differently when you are from different places. A
mhm,
lot of things are not just language, but the language behind the language,
mhm,
as we
mhm,
say
mhm,
sometimes, and it's just visual cues or body language communication.
mhm.
You're looking
Yes.
somebody in the eye. In one culture, it may not mean the same thing. Whatever the case, just things like that. So I also wanted to find a way to weave that into the narrative as well.
'Cause I started laughing when she said you are weak. I say, Rade, we are there already.
Right.
We are weak in Ghanaian terms versus you are weak in American terms. Which one are we taking now?
Right. Because that's
Yeah,
also a difference, right?
there
Yeah.
there is
So
also that difference. There is
So
also
yeah,
that
so I
difference.
had to explore the other side, in there before, it couldn't all be roses and smooth sailing. Introduce a little conflict, let them see what they're made of in this relationship.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Yes, 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 yes. You and Monty.
Yes.
You and Monty. Yes. I really do love the character of the how do you call it? Yeah, it's patriarch nonetheless, but the character that is there that brings community, the family together and ensures that everybody is safe.
Yeah.
Everybody is safe. But the most is the psychological aspect of Monte in the dungeon when he told them, "Do you not know the number of guns outside?" It's like, oh snap! I was actually expecting the guns.
Right. Brilliant, brilliant move by the patriarch. And he's again,
Hmm,
David Donto, Uncle David is he's just always so much a pleasure to work with. And in the
hmm,
downtime when we're not working or we're sitting there getting ready to do something or I had a chance when we were getting ready to do some press. He was getting ready to do a TV interview, and I was just there. I wasn't on that one, but anytime I get to sit around and speak to him, it's just he's an encyclopedia of knowledge, and he's just cool, and he loves sharing it, and I just love soaking up everything he has to say.
We grew up with David Donter as as
Yes,
as children, so he's an icon that
yeah,
I think many look up to.
yeah, and just that, that father, with his daughter, and the
Yeah.
young man trying to court his daughter. I mean, that's an important thing. So, Adrian had to go try to make it right and figure out how to
Yes.
to smooth this out. Like you can't go
Yes.
forward if you can't smooth it out with the father.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that's where my theme for respect it came in, because you have to give him his due respect to move forward with the daughter. But
Yes.
then it says all men cheat. So back to that Nanama finding you going, X, Y, and Z out there. I had to laugh when I heard the it's like all men cheat, they cheat, and the how do we call it? What's the other actor's name? I've forgotten his name. He
Peter,
said no.
Richie.
Peter said
Yes.
no. It's like ooh.
Right.
But the reason why I want you to deliberate a little bit more on that is that it for me personally, it's become a concerning thing that it's a trait in many of African movies to say all men cheat.
Yes.
Is it really true? Is my
Well,
question.
Well, no, and in that case, I remember even on the set when we were explaining that when I was explaining that scene, so they were like, "Why are they? Is there something wrong in Peter and Nadia's relationship?" I'm like, no, there's none of that. It's just so Nikki is the character who said all men cheat, and she's the
Yes,
sister
yes.
with the
Mm-hmm.
cautionary, hey, trying to warn her sister because she's
Mm-hmm.
bringing her experiences into it, what she knows. And like you said, that's a common thing that people just say in life. So I thought it would be a really comedic moment because if you're a man and you've ever been put in that position, people would do what you just did. It's like I'm in this room and it's like, hey, they say all men cheat. What do you think? And I'm like, of course not. Like, what do you mean? What do you expect me to say, right? I'm speaking for the
Yeah.
whole gender at this point. But no,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
obviously, that's not true. But
Mm-hmm.
it is such a thing where it's repeated so much. It's a relationship thing. It is sad. So in that moment, I just wanted to put him in that situation because it's awkward if you're the only man around, and all of a sudden someone says that, and you're like,
All men.
like, whoa, and he's next to his wife, like, no,
Yes.
like, what are you talking about? Of course not. So
Yes.
again,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
I often try to make a point, bring humor to a very real point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here he is, he's sitting here with his wife, a very happy relationship. No miscommunication there, no thoughts of this, right? But you kind of put him on the spot and make him answer for all men as if he's done something, right?
Yes.
So no,
Yeah.
all men do not cheat. Anyone out there thinking that, get that out of your heads. Seriously.
Yeah. So the other conversation that I picked up is the American dream and the African dream. You had your African dream. Your wife to be had the American dream.
Yes.
And then there was lack of communication to say that I really want an African dream. Meanwhile, it's like it's just that conundrum before the end it did occur, and I'm thinking, just tell her this is where you coming from.
Yeah.
But I think the key question to me for me is that when you talk about an African dream, how does it what comes to mind and how does it feel for you?
So for me, I go back to at first it's an idea that we don't really know about necessarily. We just think, okay, here's Africa. We've never been there. This is the place where mankind originated. I want to go see where my roots are, where I'm from. And when you go, and I can only speak for Ghana, I've only been to Ghana, but when I personally first got to Ghana, and every time since then, I've been about, I'm proud, I get to say I've been about 6 times now. I think 6 or 7, I'm almost losing count.
Oh,
I'm a
that's
veteran over
great.
there. So I've been several times since we shot the first movie, and
Mhm.
there is a peace. There is a peace of mind. There is a weight that lifts off my shoulders. There is something that I just cannot describe. So, for a lot of African Americans, thinking about an African dream is to go somewhere where everyone or nearly everyone looks like you, despite the divisiveness of what some people are saying. Oh, we're not Africans. They don't look. That's a whole story for another topic for another story. Descendants of, we'll put it that way, somewhere
Yes.
where um, not this utopia. Nobody has an illusion like you're going somewhere that's perfect, but it's like, I don't have to deal with this. I don't
Mhm.
have to deal with gun violence. I don't have to
Yes.
deal with people who are running up, robbing people, pulling them out of their cars, people unfortunately getting killed every day. Just some of the stress that we go through, the hustle and bustle. You think of the American dream when a lot of people come the other way and say, oh, I didn't know it's like this. Things are so expensive, the bills, and I have to work 2 or 3 jobs. And, there's this thing here a lot of times where it's stressful. Living here can be really stressful in a lot of ways. And I know that um, people from Ghana, and I'm sure probably other African countries, will say the same thing themselves. Sometimes just the place that you're from is very stressful to you because of the things you may have to deal with. But there's that idea of, I know there's a lot of things I don't have to deal with. And every time I land there, again, just the peace that I feel, the way my spirit feels,
Mhm.
just moving around. Hey, what am I going to go eat today? Let me go get some of this. Let me go here and get some of this food I love. The weather being great, the people being kind. That African dream becomes feeling like that all the time. It's like, whoa, if this was my life and I'm just waking up to this, the majority of the time that part is a dream.
Amen. Amen. And amen.
Yeah.
So I'm excited with all this. I'm excited with all this, but there's also one aspect that I'm looking at. So you go filming Ghana. Now you are a filmmaker. You are a businessman. You are an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go with that mindset, or it came to you later? I want to understand your mental processing with going in to film in Ghana when it comes to the business aspect of it.
I think I'm a creative. I'm an artist first. So going back to the days when I said I was doing music, when I was doing hip hop,
Hmm.
doing the business side and being an entrepreneur is something that I was always forced into. It's not something that I would have chosen to do. It's just more so out of necessity. It's like, okay, if you're going to create this content, create this art, how are you going to get it out? So I always found myself reading, studying what other independent first musicians had did and then filmmakers, and taking on those roles myself. But it was never a natural fit for me. It's not the part that I enjoy the most. It's just necessary. So when I got ready to go to God, so I think of it in a very, I would say, homemade way. If you say like a homemade, right? I think of it a lot in the way that like the things you do at home. Hey, if I'm gonna cook this meal, I need potatoes, I need greens, I need this, I need some cornmeal, I need whatever the list of groceries to make that meal. How much is it going to go take to buy those groceries and then come back? And then I know how to make the meal because I know how to cook. So that's kind of how I am as an artist. So when I was thinking about this going to Ghana, hesitant. I don't use a lot of probably traditional ways that people try to go to raise funds, or there's a lot of times I just don't have faith in people. A lot of times, I don't like constantly having to be told no or going through this long, lengthy process. So for
Mm-hmm.
me going in, it was like, whoa, if I'm gonna go over here and shoot a movie, how much is it going to take? How can I get that? Put it in a bank account, have it make sure I can make sure everyone is paid who works on the movie. And if I pay everyone who works on the movie and I make it back with this movie on these hard drives, then I did it. It's not like certain entrepreneurs where they're projecting ahead and this percentage and
Mm-hmm.
then thinking of it in a lot of more detailed, nuanced way. Probably with me, it's just more okay. I know I have this movie. I believe it's a good idea. I got with people. This is how to take. Oh, I'm seeing the exchange rate. Okay, over there, this is what I can do this for. Okay, the
Mm-hmm.
plane tickets are this. The Airbnb will be this. Once we get there, I can rent this van for this, and then I'm just locked in kind of as a creative. So I think about the business side a lot different than other people. It's really truly a necessity for me. If I was a person who had a whole team of people who that's all they specialized in and I never had to think about the business, I would love that. To just sit back and be the creative, but I don't get that luxury, so I just have to
Yet.
just study yet, right? So I study as best I can to try to maximize what I can do, and I just try to get it done.
Beautiful. I remember last year when we had the other conversation, you didn't tell me how this was going to be, but I watched it and it was star studded.
Yes, yes.
How did you get the other stars, Nikki's character, Nanama, and the rest together? Not Nanama, Nadia.
Nadia. So it was. Oh, that experience
I
is
want
so
the Jews, everything. Don't leave any single
right.
behind. Mm.
Right. Okay. So that way. So I have to go back to. I mean, Nadia Buari. I always tell people the first Ghanaian movie I ever saw was Beyonce, the President's Daughter. That came
Yes.
out in what 2006 or 7 or somewhere around there.
Hmm.
And I was actually in film school at the time. And I was like, one day, I was like, wow, I'm gonna make a movie in Ghana one day. This is when I was planning out my first movie. So just having that visual of Ghana was amazing to me. And
Mm.
her being in that movie playing that role, I was like, and I'm gonna work with her one day. I'm gonna have her in the
Dreams
movie.
still come true.
Yes, right, way back then. So when I went for the first coming to Africa, she was actually on my short list along with Nanama and a couple others to play the lead role. That ended up being Nanama McBrown, but I actually had Nadia was another person I considered. I just kind of had my short list of about 4 people. Like, hey, if I can get either one of them, I
Mm.
did it. That was the first movie. So now, in the first movie, once I said that her character had 2 sisters, I'm like, wow, okay, this is an opportunity to go get, the 2 sisters. So it came right back to Nadia in that way. So
Hmm.
again, PY and Basira, they both have a lot of relationships. Basira, in particular, day to day has been on a lot of sets, does a lot of film work. PY has a lot of connections, but also came more from the music and TV side at first. But he had actually hosted. Um, well, no, this was actually a fashion show or something. I remember with Nikki Simonis one
Hmm.
time around the time we were doing the first one. So all of these connections were just kind of floating around. So I remember asking him like, "Who is that on the flyer?" Like, "Oh, okay, that's her. What do you think about her for this movie?" So we didn't really have a role that fit her for the first one, but I never
Hmm.
forgot her really. And then I went to a workshop there, an Oscar workshop about submitting movies for Oscars and all that from Ghana. And I met her there, like, hey, I'm PY's friend, oh, okay, hey. So we had a brief meeting, and I remembered her in my head, like, okay, she'd be good for stuff. She had a relationship with Basira. Um, it went Gloria Sarfo. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Great. Oh, I love Gloria. Gloria is so cool and so talented. So she was actually on the set one day with Basira, and we were on WhatsApp talking on video. And Basira was like, "Hey, our Gloria here. If you ever any actress, I'm telling you, somebody who you know is going to be dedicated, is going to show up." And they were kind of pitching
Yeah.
it right there on the set. I'm like, "Oh, definitely. We'll do something." So when it came time, I'm like, "Okay, I need the other teacher who's going to have that relationship with Anama's character."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the
Yes.
connections were just lining up. Peter Ritchie. So he had, when we did the first Coming to Africa, he was just through Basira. He came and ate fufu with us, right? And our costumier who did our wardrobe in the first one, Mommy Say
Yeah.
Wow, much love to her as well. They were like, we're going over her house to eat fufu. And I'm like, okay. So Khalil, that's when Khalil came. He was over there with us. That was when we actually did the press run, and I got to take my family with
Mm-hmm.
me. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like Peter's gonna come over. So she's like, "Hey, you got to check Peter out. He's really, that guy right now. A lot of people, he's in a lot of things." I was like, "Okay." So I looked him up, seeing some of his things. I hadn't seen him. Okay, cool. But when we got to the dinner, cool guy. We sitting there cracking jokes. He's teaching me how to eat my fufu properly and clean the bowl, and I'm, sucking it off, getting all the soup at the end, and and he was just really cool. So I really
Mm-hmm.
loved that I got to kind of build with him. And I'm like, okay, we already met. I know he's cool. If he's like the guy that my character is kind of bouncing things off of, kind of
Yes.
his best
Yeah.
Ghanaian friend, I knew we
Yeah.
would do well in that role. So everything was kind of lining up. But the one person that nobody really had a connection with was Nadia. so, so Basira was like, "Yeah, I can't get anyone. Well, maybe just try to reach out to her. Maybe send her an email." So her on her Instagram, she had an email listed, but I'm like, okay, this is probably the
Mm-hmm.
booking email. So I was speaking to her. I thought I was speaking to her at first, and it wasn't even her. Come to find out later, it was her manager. So we talked
Oh.
about it, and it's like, yeah, she's interested, or I'm interested. And but it got to the point somehow we lost communication, or the communication wasn't really there, and I was like, we were getting a backup plan in my head. Basira was getting somebody to suggest, and I was like, okay, that'll be the backup plan if we can't get her. And I was like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna send one more message, and I was just like, hey, you know, because we had pretty much agreed on things, but we hadn't got to fully agree. And I'm like, hey, just checking one more time because we're gonna start shooting soon. So if you can't do it, it's no hard feelings. I understand all of that stuff. And all of a sudden, I kind of got this message like, well, no, here, call my WhatsApp, and and we'll talk. So then she gave me the number, and I called her,
Mm-hmm.
and we got on WhatsApp, and then I got to express to her, how long I've been seeing her, and how I really wanted to work
Mm-hmm.
with her,
Mm-hmm.
and she
Mm-hmm.
was kind of pleased to hear that, like, oh, really, like, yeah, definitely, I've been a fan. I said I was gonna work with you, and we just had a really cool conversation. And after that, she locked in, and that was the last piece. She wanted to know who else was on the movie, and okay, this is who was on the movie, and it all came together. So when we got on the set, even they were looking around like, wow, this cast is something else. They were looking at each other like, yeah, we all haven't been on the set, with this many of us at once. Like, this is different. And
It is.
it just turned out it came together great. And the opening scene of the movie, that scene with the family plus Peter and everyone
Mm-hmm.
eating that, I just really enjoyed shooting that scene. And that was like, I'm looking around like, okay, this is real now. So that was cool.
It was a beautiful family scene. It was most beautiful. I think I got a quote from one. Maybe it was a backstage. I don't know who was saying it. As you speaking, how all these things came together. I think what the girl had said is that your destiny is tied to someone else. So as you speaking. I'm thinking about if destiny was a thread, how it's all pulling together to get all these people that need to be on set, that needs to be part of this creative enterprise, were pulled together seamlessly. Well, you had your hassles, but from where I visualize it on how do you call it, television, of video, it looks like so seamlessly that they could read each other's body language, especially Nanama and Nadia in the kitchen chit chatting and everything. And Nanama goes right to the cooking. It's like, ooh, that's the girl. You know, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And I enjoyed the banter, especially with the tree all immersed in it. It was a beautiful banter between
that was
sisters.
that was important, and that was it added so much to the movie at the
Hmm.
end. And I have to give a lot of credit to Nanama and Nikki, because the first day that we shot, I kind of said, yeah, feel free, or if
Hmm.
there's some tree you want to sprinkle in. We discussed it, and we said how in the first movie we had a little bit, here and there, but it
Hmm.
wasn't. So I said this one we want to, going to get more of that in. So if there's certain things you say, because I noticed as they started speaking tree, it's there's a comfort level. It goes up. It's different emotions and different things
Yes.
you get. So
Yes.
once they started doing it, that scene with them in the room and on the bed speaking to each other,
Hmm.
that was the first day. That was some of the earliest stuff we shot. So when they started going back and forth with that, I was like, wow. I said, this is a theme for the movie that we have to continue to use. So as we went on, I told the other actors, yeah, we did this, but feel free to continue. If it's something you want to put in tree, yeah, we're going to get the subtitles, but we want it to feel authentic, because that's what happens when you're in Ghana, and we're sitting there like, hold on, I keep switching back and forth. It's like, all of a sudden, but it really makes you feel like you feel when you're there. People are going to do that to you. So if you go to Ghana and you don't speak Tree, get ready for that. They're going to be speaking English. All of a sudden, it's going to switch, and then it's going to be back, and they're going to go back and forth all the time. So you'll get used to it.
I, I think that is the thing with polyglots, because you speak Tree, you speak Guy, you pick up Hausa and any other language. And for me, I find that here, when I am in a workplace and I meet another Ghanaian who speaks any of the Ghanaian languages that I do understand, I just transition from English straight into Tree or Ga, and then back to English, and then straight into Tree or
Yeah.
Ga. And you find people just looking at me. It's just naturally flowing. I'm not really thinking about it. You look at me, and it's like, oh, if I'm speaking to you, I will speak to you solely in English.
Yes.
She understands the rest. That's why.
Yes.
But it's also makes for beautiful code swing.
Yes, I can imagine. And we're just sitting there like, even when we shot the scene on the beach, and the young
Hmm.
boys we
Hmm.
had who were playing football,
Ah,
soccer, we would say.
that one you didn't play at all. Ah, and
So,
Nanama played more than you.
yes, yes,
They
because
just did you Sully and you are on the
yes.
Anwar.
And they
Yeah.
were great, the young guys, but they only spoke Guy. So
Yes.
only certain people on the crew even spoke. So it was like we had to send a certain person over there to tell them, what I wanted, and this is what. But so they only spoke Guy. So it was, yeah, it's a lot of that is very, very particular. And it's so cool. I just that part of my brain, I wish I had an opportunity to exercise it earlier. But seeing Ghanaians just speak 3 or 4 languages seamlessly is it is something. I'm jealous of that part. Like I say, I found an online course though. My friends over there laugh at me. They think I'm not going to come back speaking Tree, but I'm going to surprise everybody, and I'm going to show up one of these times functionally speaking Tree enough that I can really hold conversations, and they are going to be amazed. I'm going to do
I,
it.
As you and I are having this conversation about language, and there's one thing that I always say: language matters a lot. The words we use matters a lot. There is a shift even in Ghanaian language, that English is overtaken, and we losing the traditional languages, because especially children go to school, they learn English. Their families at home do not speak Tree or Ga or whatnot to them. They rather speak English to them, with the idea that they are going to come to North America and they will be speaking English. But for me, my understanding is that the authenticity, the creativity that allows us to be polyglots, whatnot, is being taken away from these children, and they become adults that don't speak the language of any of the language of the motherland. So English become this across the board language with no variety, which to us human beings is also is a loss of culture, is a loss of tradition, because we carry a lot of our cultures and traditions in the languages we speak, in the foods we eat, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Here is you wanting to speak tree and get that flavor, and the
Yeah.
Ghanaians are running away from it. Human beings.
Right.
Mm.
Exactly. We want to go there. They want to come here. I want to speak Tree. They want to speak English.
It, it is true, but I must commend you. You're doing a great job, because even with this filming in Ghana, it's you're employing people.
Yes.
You
Yes.
give employment to people.
That's one of the
It,
things I was most proud of, to look around and say, this is what it can look like. I'm like, oh, even if for a month, for a few weeks, it's like, that's employment. That's for that time. Everyone's getting paid. They're doing their job, and they're earning their wage, and that's something I'm proud of, and that's something I tell people, is that that's a model that can expand to other things, and that's the way that we can cooperate across these borders, because is certain things like the size of the crew, I could never afford that type of crew over here. So I'd say, people, if you have a business where you need certain things manufactured or certain things, it's like you can get help over there, or be able to pay a living wage for certain things that you would never be able to afford there. You might be able to afford 5 people there because of the difference in the money and the cost of living. And it's not like, paying, like they say, sweatshops and all of these things. It's like, this
Mhm.
is an actual living wage there that you couldn't pay anybody here. But then you may be able to take that product and come back over here and then sell it or run your business or whatever. So now you may have employees there, and you may be able to generate, or sell it over here. So you may have 1 or 2 employees over here who are doing your office work, but there's opportunities for collaborations where people on both sides can benefit. And I just looked at, these 2 movies as a small example of that.
I don't think it's small, or it's a big example. It's huge. Also, I think whilst you're speaking, I was thinking of the differences in the directorship of movie making between those that are, have done it in Ghana, Nigeria. They're used to a certain sense of directorship, versus you coming from America and teaching film to do the directorship. You're also coming in from a different angle. Were you able to see that when you were interacting with, the whole?
I can't, it's funny, I can't get a straight answer from anybody about what the differences are. They just tell me how different it is. Like, the way you do things is so different, but it's cool. We love, and I'm just like, well, tell me how. Like, what, I don't get to see a lot. So I purposely went on a set, and I was like, I need to go on a set while somebody's, and I was asking Basira, like, who's shooting the movie? So I got a chance to go on a set. I didn't see, in the way the set was, and maybe it was a type of film, I didn't see the major differences. That might have just been the director's temperament. He was a little bit more snappy than me in the way he gave his orders. They do say I'm really laid back. I don't know, but it's funny because I'll hear them, in an interview or something, and say, "Whoa, Anwar, his style, it is so different. It's hard sometimes, but when it comes together, it's." And I'm really sitting there like, I want them to almost give me a list, like, tell me the things that are different because I don't know really what I'm doing that's different. All I know is how to do it my way. So yeah, I'm told it's very different, but one day I'll go to another set. I'll get around enough sets where I can see. But right now, I don't know what's really that different about it. But as they tell me, it's very different.
Then I think I'm not on set with you, but based on experience, I can say that number one, probably the empowerment you bring. Number two, if you're a teacher and you are also doing the directing, you come at it from a different angle. So they feel it, but to put it in words is something that they really don't have. They may not have the words to contextualize it and say that this is A, B, and C, but they feel the whole difference. How many Ghanaian or say African directors will really empower, have conversations with their team and empower them before they start?
That
Probably not.
is that is one big thing. And Basira did say that, my assistant director. You almost said word for word what she said. And I don't think I even posted that. That's funny you said that because she said that word for word almost when we had and I recorded it on my phone. I said one day I have to post this. But when we wrapped the movie, we pulled the crew together and they said, okay, before everybody walks away, everybody give your thoughts. If you got any complaints or if you want to share anything, go ahead and say it now. Don't wait until later or any of that. So everyone kind of just shared their experiences. But that was one thing that she spoke about, like that would never. She was like, what kind of? She was like, she said she thinks of me more a filmmaker, not just a director, like a true filmmaker. She was like, what kind of man would let you, see the script before you do it and ask for your suggestions, and then, you know, when I'm on the set, just the fact that because I'm acting and directing in it, that I let her call action. A lot of the time, if I'm in that scene, I would
Mhm.
tell her, "You go ahead and call action, and I'll call cut." But that's a small thing to me because I'm just making the movie, getting the most out of it. But she was just like, no, like nobody would let her do that, or so she felt really empowered. So you hit the nail on the head with one big thing as far as empowering other people, and whether it be the set designers, the wardrobe, different stuff. I really, really wanted to be in tune, and to me, I just thought for the most part it's really necessary because essentially at heart it's a Ghanaian movie, especially this one, because it took fully place. So I'm going to put my sensibilities on it. So it's going to be in the Hollywood style because that's what I was trained in and all of that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'd be crazy not to empower people to help make sure that it's authentic.
And they felt leadership, which they're not used to.
Wow.
So, I've been I'm not in the film industry there, but speaking across the board to many people, behind the scenes, I pick up a lot. And leadership is one of those conversations that, for instance, we really do not have true leaders who give us great leadership. We have managers and micromanagers, but we don't have true leaders. And when you come in with empowerment and open-mindedness and pulling out the best in them, that is a mark of a true leader who is also the director, who is exploring everybody's intuitive abilities to bring the best on the table. And they're not used to that. And it's like, oh, this is different. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it pulled everybody's A game.
Yeah. And oh, King Ampao, the great Ghanaian director, who I had a chance to
Hmm.
interview at one point, and he came to the screening that we had for Coming to Africa, Welcome to Ghana, and he,
Yeah.
gave David Danto his start as a Kukurantumi, Road to Accra, that
Oh
movie.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and I was so awesome when he showed up. I was surprised, like, oh, he came to watch it, and I was really honored. But one feedback that got back to me from him, because I was wondering, like, oh, I wonder what he thought about the movie, and he said something to the effect of he had never seen Ghanaian actors, that level of Ghanaian actors, under that type of control and acting like under control in that way.
Professionalism.
Yes, within the narrative and like the style of acting, like just disciplined under control. And I was like, oh wow, that's a cool thing to hear, and that's one of the things they would say is a difference, because the style that we use and just I was raised in, it can be really meticulous. So I'm asking you to do things a certain way. I'm giving you freedom within that. Like if you feel, but
Hmm.
we're going to shoot it, we're going to do these takes a certain way, and
Hmm.
but to hear him say that, and he is, one of the greats. I tell people, great director, period. That movie, when I went back to watch that, because I was studying Ghanaian cinema, I'm like, he was ahead of his time with some of,
Kukrantumi. Yeah.
yes, Kukaran Toomey, ahead of his time with the takes. And people talk about long takes.
Yes.
It's not just turning on the camera and letting it run for minutes, like it would get boring, but there's a real art and skill to what they call long takes and having people walk in the camera, out of the camera, a car pulls
Hmm.
up, someone else gets out, and you're like, wait a minute, they didn't cut in that whole time, but to keep the action moving, but the
Yes.
camera is doing, I mean, I look back at that like, wow, yeah, he's great. So
Yes.
so I was
Yes.
really
Yes.
honored to have him come. I need to reach back out to him. But yeah, he allowed me to interview him one time, and then he came to the movie. That was yeah, I was very 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 honored by that.
The premiere before we kind of, when I get so engrossed in conversations like this, I forget that I'm on a podcast and that I have to say something. Watch, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I forget all those things.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a beautiful conversation. It's a beautiful conversation. The D-Day, Silverbird Cinema. Whoo-wee.
Yes, that
What was
was
the experience like? Share.
it was the first time we premiered over there. We had just opened the Silverbird back up. We were one of the first movies
Hmm.
coming out of COVID. So that was cool. The first one was cool, but this one, I was,
Yep.
it was overwhelming. It was the amount of people who came, the reaction, the amount of love they showed after seeing it, the excitement. It was truly something to see. It was beautiful. We had the theme telling people to come out in traditional dress, so people came out wearing all the different. It was represent your region, whether you're from
Hmm.
whatever, and it was lovely. And then the next day in Kumasi, so that was my first time in Kumasi. I had never
Oh,
been to Kumasi, so
the Garden City.
yes. So, Royal View Cinema at SG Mall, a fairly new cinema
Hmm.